Hey people, welcome back, It's Platinum TV, and today we're back on the mechanic side. We got a 2006 Saturn View. Came in because it keeps dying. It needs an alternator. So I'm gonna show y'all today how to replace the alternator. Quick, easy steps. How to get it in and install the new one. Alright, so first thing we're going to do, disconnect the battery. We don't need any type of electrical charge once we're doing the alternator, so we're going to disconnect the battery. This is the best way and safest practice you can do. By not doing this, and you disconnecting that alternator and the lines touch to metal which is ground, you can burn the fuses. And if you get more than the fuses, you can also burn the PCM of the car. So what you want to do, disconnect your battery lines. So with this alternator, it drains the battery. So the lines are connected. So what I'm going to do, since the battery is drained, I'm going to charge it while I'm working on the car. I'm going to have this charging while I'm removing the alternator, so I don't have to wait until I'm finished to recharge it. Now we're about to go and start removing the alternator. So what we're going to do, we're going to remove the air box and get that out the way. So what we're going to do is move the clips, take this loose. Got to get this 10mm bolt out the way, get all this out the way. All of that out the way. Remove the air filter. Here's some more 10mm bolts. Unplug the sensor from the side. Once you unplug the sensor, pull this out. Now you have your motor mount to remove. That's your next step, which is down here. You gotta remove the motor mount. So now we got the air filter and the tube out the way. Next step, we gotta take a block of wood and a jack, and we're going to support the engine because we got to remove the motor mount on the engine side. So what you do, put a block of wood on the jack and jack the engine up to support it when you remove the motor mount out now. Alright, so we're going to loosen up the motor mount real fast and slow. Two top bolts, 15mm, side bolt, 19mm. Remove the side mount bolt and pull the motor mount out the way. You don't have to move the bracket. Bracket can stay in, just move the mount only. Makes the job much easier, quicker. So to release the tensioner, you need a 14mm wrench to put in there and retract it. Remove the belt. Alright. Now we got the belt off. We gotta remove the tensioner pulley. It's a 14mm nut as well, so we gotta remove the nut. And move the pulley out the way, because that's blocking one of the alternator bolts. Loosen it up with the, I'm using a ratchet wrench. Once you get it loose, took the rest out by hand. the bolt loose, it comes out, that piece, and then the pulley. So that's out the way. So now we got the pulley out, put the nut back in, and we're gonna pull the tension up backwards, and we're gonna put a pin inside so you can hold it back so we can get to the nut for the alternator. There's nothing there or you can't really see it, that it's in the way, so you gotta pull the tensioner back now and lock it into a position to where you can get to the nut off. So let's get that done. Now the tensioner is locked into a position. I can now get to the bolt. Let me show y'all real quick what I'm talking. As you can see, I use a drill bit to lock the tensioner in position to get to that bolt right there, which it was blocking. So we have that bolt and that bolt right there to remove, and the alternator should be coming out. Alright, so now we're going to remove the two bolts for the alternator. So if we could get an air tool in there. The bottom bolt is a 14mm. 12mm bolt to the top. This goes out. Sit there and you rock it out of the way. Let me get this flashlight out of the way. By the alternator, there's a bracket right here that you gotta remove as well. I think it's a 12mm bolt. Once you get that bracket out, the alternator should slide out sideways. All that's left to do is to disconnect the main harness from the alternator. So once you get the alternator out, you disconnect the power wire, which is a 13mm bolt, and the other wire, the connector from the back of it. And here, the alternator is out. Now it's time to do the installation. So now we got the old one, we're about to put the new alternator in. So what we want to do is plug this back in. Make sure that's snapped in. And you bring that rubber boot over it to protect it. And once you put that back on, put your nut back on it. 12mm. Hand tighten it down. Once you get it hand tightened, you snug it with a ratchet. You don't want to go too tight with it because that's a copper piece and you can break it off. So just snug it and that should be good. Always make sure you put your cap back on when you finish. All you got to do is put it back into the bracket. Now once you got the alternator in, you put the bolts back in. So once you get the bottom bolt in, you put this bracket back in on the top. and then the top bolt would mount into this hole over here. Bring the alternator up to lines up with it. It's gonna be right there. Why you don't tighten the bracket? Because you gotta line the holes up. So it's much easier if you don't tighten the bracket right away. And that's it. The brackets are lined up. The bolts are in. Now it's time to tighten them up. Make sure they're all tight. All right. So once those bolt, we're gonna put the pulley back on. Put the pulley back on and the nut in. Tighten it back up with the wrench. And the next step is to put the belt on before releasing that tensioner. All you gotta do is put the belt back on, and that should be it. Alternator wheel is installed. You just gotta put the belt on. Call it a day. Once you get the belt there, you put your wrench on it. Make sure everything is in the grooves. The belt is on. Crank, AC, tensioner, alternator. Once everything is in, you release the tensioner and you pull the pin out from blocking it.